Hello and welcome to the Washington Week Webcast Extra. I'm joined around the table by Molly Ball of The Atlantic, Alexis Simendinger of Real Clear Politics, and Karen Tumulty of The Washington Post. Speaking of Real Clear Politics, let's talk about some really murky politics. Karen spent some time, didn't see this one coming. Karen spent some time in one of our favorite haunts, New Hampshire, trying to sort out political ambition in a story that has nothing to do with presidential politics. Is former Massachusetts Senator Scott Brown making a comeback in the live free or die state? Well, aside from the fact he took off his shirt.
I was not there for that. But Senator Scott Brown has moved from Massachusetts to New Hampshire. And so immediately the buzz is that he may challenge Jeanne Shaheen, the incumbent senator, this year. I've got to tell you, though, I was not feeling the fire.
Really?
He's not doing anything you would do to set up a campaign. He's not making the private visits to the power brokers. He's not hiring staff. He just goes out and creates a buzz whenever he shows his face in public. But he does have until May to make up his mind.
I was interested when he said something to you like, I'm just so unorganized. I couldn't possibly get it all together.
Well, here's another thing. The primary is in September. He's got one daughter getting married in July and another daughter getting married in August. So he has if he decides to run, he's going to have a very, very full summer.
Well, we can't help it. It's too much. It's got you to New Hampshire, right. So obviously it was at least worth looking at. I want to talk about something Molly wrote about this week, which is kind of the opposite end of the ruler here, which is liberals. Where are liberals anymore? One of the things, Scott Brown got beat by Elizabeth Warren, who is the poster child now for liberalism in the Democratic Party. And people keep saying, do the Democrats have a Tea Party wing, kind of the agitators on the left? Do they?
Well, they do. It's just relatively weak. I mean, what I was writing about in my piece is I think there's been a lot of hype for the Elizabeth Warren wing of the Democratic Party. A lot of ink spilled on like, oh, she could make life difficult for Hillary Clinton, either if she runs, because obviously she'd capture the hearts of the base, or even if she doesn't run, they put a lot of pressure on a relative centrist like Hillary. I think this is based on a misperception of the asymmetry of the parties. The Republican Party, thanks in large part to the several decade rise of the conservative movement, the Republican Party consists almost entirely of conservatives. Something like 70 or 80% of Republicans call themselves conservative. Less than half of Democrats call themselves liberals. The majority of Democrats consider themselves either moderates or conservatives. And so, obviously, conservatives don't consider them moderates or conservatives. And this terminology, you get into a whole area of what does it mean to self-identify. But the point being that you don't see Democrats go into Democratic primaries and get picked off by someone to the left. In fact, the times that leftists have tried to do that, they've mostly failed, unlike in the Republican Party where they're all scared of a Tea Party challenger from the right who could take them out. And you don't have the rush to always run to the left, whether it's in a presidential
New York
or another
mayor.
kind of
well, that's
primary.
the thing, though.
So
She
this
makes
is the
the point that
counterexample.
whenever she makes a point in the article that whenever people cite examples of the comeback of liberalism, they always cite Elizabeth Warren or Bill de Blasio, but it doesn't get much deeper than that.
Those are sort of the two examples, and so my point is two examples doesn't necessarily make a trend. Liberalism is rising in this country. It is at, in fact, a 25-year high, according to Gallup. So there, you do have more people identifying as liberal than used to, but it is still about half the number who call themselves conservatives in the overall electorate. They just don't have the strength or the popularity that conservatives do on the right.
Fascinating. I want to go back to what Alexis has been following all week. You were covering the visit here of French President Francois Hollande. And among other things he said, which most people didn't pay a lot of attention to when we were covering a couple of weeks ago, the drama from turns out that the White House was spying on its friends. Well, he's one of the friends. He seemed to be okay with that.
He seemed to be okay about it to the point that he was saying that we discussed it and cleared things up, he and President Obama. One of the things that he was also suggesting is that very much the French would like to be brought into the, to the cabal of countries that not only spy on one another but then share their spying. So he was talking about he would like to be part of that club. He clearly would. But one of the nice things about this visit was, we haven't had a state visit in a long time. And one of the things that came up was there was not any particular hard business that they needed to do, But the French were given a nice, lovely visit and dinner and visit to Monticello, in part because, as you remember, the French stuck their neck out and said, we will join with the United States to militarily attack in Syria, and then we're told to stand down. So the president, I think, clearly was giving them a very nice pat on the back for being there when the United States wanted it.
And in the next month, the president's completely turning his attention once again, it seems, to the Middle East, if you just look at his schedule.
In fact, while we are here this evening, the president is meeting with King Abdullah of Jordan. He's not meeting with him in Washington. He's meeting with him in California at a beautiful estate where
Which, since we're all snowbound in Washington, we can get there.
They're in nice weather, and the president is going to need to stay there a few more days, in fact, to take in some golf. But nonetheless, the two gentlemen are talking about the serious refugee problem in Jordan. They're probably going to be talking about whether there should be additional aid and what the United States and the world community is trying to do in the UN to clear a path to get humanitarian aid to refugees. Then the president in a few weeks will be meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, obviously from Israel, and they'll be talking about this whole basket of issues, Iran and Syria. And then in March, the president's going to be meeting with some disgruntled Saudis in Saudi Arabia, which he tacked on to a trip that he'll be making in Europe.
And meanwhile, John Kerry is busy trying to come up with something that approximates peace in Syria, where 5,000 more people have died since they started meeting. So that doesn't look like it's going to be worked out anytime soon. Well, there'll be a lot to watch. Thank you all very much. That's it for now. But you can stay online and read my take on Barbies, watermelon, and other stereotypes. Does that get you? That's my weekly blog at pbs.org/Washington Week. And we'll see you next time on the Washington Week Webcast Extra.